If you're beginning to solder or getting into repairing electronics, there are a few chemicals you're going to have to know about. And there's not a whole lot of them, but they are extremely useful and I would even say necessary in most cases. So I want to start with the one that's the most obvious, flux. Now, you can buy this in different forms. This is liquid. You can get it in a gel. You can get it in a solid. I recommend pine rosin. I don't actually know if this is pine rosin. It kind of smells like it, but I would need to check the data sheet to be sure. There are different types of flux, but pine rosin is the most widely used and it's the best. Its smoke isn't toxic. And of course, like all smoke, you don't want to breathe it, but it comes from pine wood. So it's like a campfire. And that's a big reason I recommend rosin flux is it's not really a danger to your health. And that's especially if you're using lead solder. The lead doesn't vaporize when you solder, so I recommend lead solder. Rosin flux is great for lead solder. Lead-free solder is a little bit of a different animal. You might find that rosin flux works well with lead-free solder, and you might find that it doesn't. I've read conflicting things about it, but I've never looked too far into it because I just use lead solder. In most cases, there is more than enough flux in the solder wire that you use, so you won't actually have to use the extra flux. But being that flux is essential to soldering in general, I recommend no matter how little you use it, you still have some on hand. I rarely use mine, but I have it on hand because there are times when it's necessary. Now, the next thing you're going to want is some kind of solvent, specifically 99% isopropyl alcohol. In my experience, lower concentrations don't work. You want to always go with the 99%. And this is useful for cleaning up flux, cleaning up your circuit boards after you work on them in general. And it can even help remove old, or not necessarily old, but existing conformal coating so you can work on the solder joints underneath. If you have a repair to make or a solder joint to reflow, you got to remove that conformal coating before you can work on it. And another solvent is acetone. And you can tell by the fact that it's in this jug that I don't use it very often at home, but it is a stronger solvent than alcohol, so it can come in handy. And I do actually want to put it in one of these bottles. The issue that I have is it's very hard to pour out of those metal jugs, so I just haven't done it yet. And one thing I want to note about alcohol and acetone, it's not necessarily important, but I find that alcohol, it lingers longer on things, so it can kind of soak into stuff. And I noticed that through contact with my skin. Alcohol dries my skin out a lot more than acetone does, which might be counterintuitive because acetone is kind of a stronger solvent. But because the acetone evaporates so fast, it feels cold on my hands and it doesn't really dry them out so much. The alcohol soaks in and then it evaporates and it just kind of strips your hands of your oil that way. So you want to take care when you're handling either of these solvents, but counterintuitively, alcohol is actually a little bit worse to handle than acetone, unless you fall into a vat, but that's not really going to happen if you're just buying jugs of it. You can also get alcohol in jugs like this. And I bought this, I don't know how long ago now, a few years. Time seems to stretch. It might have been 2 years. I don't really know. It's not hugely expensive, and isopropyl alcohol is not cheap, but it's not that bad, especially since you don't use a whole lot of it at a time. I recommend just getting the gallon jug and filling up a smaller container with it, whether you reuse containers like this, like I do. This is a contact lens solution container, or you buy dedicated containers. They make one where it's like a bottle and it has a straw that goes down inside, and the straw comes up and bends down. And you're probably visualizing what I'm talking about right now, but when you squeeze it, it pushes the liquid up the straw and out, and those are really nice. I don't have any, so, but if you're looking at getting dedicated bottles for your stuff, I recommend looking at those, and I don't know what to call them. Next chemical on the list, and this is especially true if you're doing electronics repair and you have the possibility of encountering any kind of water damage, is white vinegar. And I don't have the jug with me, but everybody probably has this stuff in their laundry room or their kitchen or under their sink. And it's very useful for cleaning up corrosion that's happened on circuit boards. Anywhere there's any kind of water damage, it does a good job at helping clean it up. And it does work. The alcohol doesn't do because it's acidic. Now, because it's acidic, you don't want to leave it on stuff. You want to make sure you clean it off really well. But it does help a lot when you're using it for the purpose of cleaning. Now, I don't recommend putting this kind of stuff in a spray bottle unless you like the smell of vinegar for some reason. I can't stand it. It's nauseating. So pouring it out, it doesn't bother me. It's a weak smell, but once you spray it and get it atomized in the air, it's terrible. So I don't recommend putting it in a spray bottle. But in a bottle like I showed where it comes out in a stream rather than a spray, I haven't had an issue, and I doubt you will either unless you hate vinegar more than I do. Now, these next couple things aren't quite as necessary, but if you're building or repairing anything that has a heat sink, it's a good idea to have on hand some thermal paste. And this is stuff that I bought for the heat sink for my CPU and my computer on the rare occasion that I remove the heat sink or get a new CPU or just build a new computer. And I personally have only used it maybe once or twice in electronics. But again, if you're doing stuff that requires heat sinks, this stuff is going to be very important for you. And you'll probably want more than what comes in this little tube, and maybe something a little bit more generic than this. This is probably kind of expensive. And then the last chemical is going to be important mostly only if you are building or repairing circuits that need to have some level of moisture resistance. And this is a chemical that I just bought because I'm repairing some things that need that. And funnily enough, they were things that have been water damaged. But it's conformal coating. So anything that you repair that you have to dissolve the conformal coating off of, you'll probably want to put that conformal coating back on unless the environment you know it's going into is not going to be very moist. It's not going to have a lot of humidity in the environment or anything like that. Now, there are different kinds of this, and they're cured differently. They have different cure times, cure temperatures if they can be baked. Some of them can be cured under UV light. So you want to be mindful of that when you shop for this stuff. Some of them have different chemical resistance properties, and there's just a myriad of different options that are better for different applications. And I haven't even used this yet. I just bought it because I'm beginning to need it. And I bought the stuff that seems kind of the most well-rounded. It cures relatively quickly. I can bake it if I want it to cure more quickly. And it has a decent chemical resistance. So if you look at the label there, you can see that it has a number, and that number can be used to find the data sheet on it, which will tell you what material it's made of, how to cure it, and all that kind of stuff. You will want to be in a well-ventilated area when you use it. It smells very, very strong, very unpleasant. When I received it in the packaging reeked of chemicals. It's the same smell that's in fingernail polish, basically. Thankfully, it's not outgassing through the cap. I made sure that was tight when I got it and put it on my desk here, and I don't notice any smells. So you don't have to worry about storing it somewhere special. You just want to be careful when you use it. So those are all the chemicals that I recommend you have in your electronics workshop. And just to quickly recap, those are flux, 99% isopropyl alcohol, acetone, thermal compound, and conformal coating. And based on my experience, those are going to cover all of your needs, unless you have some special niche need that I haven't considered or haven't had myself. Those are going to cover it for you just fine. So if you found this video useful, go ahead and hit the like button and consider subscribing if you enjoy this kind of video, how-to videos or repair videos, or electronics videos even. Those aren't quite as common as the repair and how-tos, tips and tricks kind of stuff. But being a directly related topic, they are going to be up on the channel from time to time. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. And if you're interested in learning to solder in a live workshop setting, go ahead and join the mailing list below, just so I can know that you're interested and send you an email whenever those things are taking place. So if there's anything you would like to see on the channel, leave your suggestion in a comment below. And if you're interested in a how-to solder video on a practical example, hit that subscribe button because I have that planned coming in the near future. See you guys in the next one.